This is the second webcast that we are hosting in a series of discussions around the accelerated transformation of the automotive sector to e-mobility. Today, we will be focusing a bit on certain aspects of the supply chain ecosystem and on the battery. In our first webcast on 24th March, I reported an outstanding growth of the global electric vehicle market in last year of 46% to more than 4.7 million cars sold. Actually, this trend continues, and if we have a look at the first quarter of this year, the development is even more impressive. Compared to the first quarter last year, electric vehicle global sales have increased by an impressive 144% to more than 1.7 million units, specifically in Europe and China. Battery electric vehicle sales lead the growth. So the global transition towards electric vehicles continues to gather momentum and creates major disruption in the automotive industry and the related nexus. And we expect further growth that needs to be satisfied. 2026 will also be the year where we expect almost 48 million electric vehicles being assembled and manufactured globally. Less growth in the plug-in hybrid sector, where the largest market is in Europe. Here in plug-in hybrids, we anticipate less incentivization going forward, and also new rulings in Europe with respect to the ability to label a plug-in hybrid car as a sustainable investment. By 2026, we forecast around 1.3 million electric vehicles being made in the major CEE markets, reflecting almost 30% of the overall light vehicle production volume in the region. Slovakia seems to be focused on plug-in hybrids a bit, and we will see how the potential of the segment will develop given the anticipated rulings in Europe. Given those prospects, there will be huge demand for batteries, and this nicely, I believe, refers to Jörn. Jörg would be talking about the importance of having control over the battery loop.
We expect that you need an xEV fleet, so PHEV and BHEV, with about 35 to 45% of your overall fleet, increasing now to about, let's say, 45 to 55%. So there's a huge legislational push on this in these times, and which needs to be fulfilled till 2030. From the European Union. All this is not coming for free, it's coming at a price. And if we look what is happening with the ICE, the PHEV, and fuel cell vehicles, and taking into account the point of time in 2020, we see on cost for PHEV with about, let's say, 85 kilowatts and let's 75 kilowatt peak electric with about a range of about 100 kilometers, let's say 20 kilowatt hours. We see on cost of about €3,500, and for the BEV with a range of about 300 kilometers and 60 kilowatt hours of about 4,500. With the fuel cell, what we see there, it's not yet industrialized. So having like low production volumes, it will range something around additional 40,000, and getting something in a little bit of an industrialization, we expect like on cost of about 15,000. What does that mean for our OEMs, and what's coming here into place is that it's decreasing their contribution margins. The typical cost of a BEV powertrain is about 8,500 to 10,000 euro production cost for an OEM in 2020 for about 60 kilowatt hours and 100 kilowatts. In a volume class, and the main part of this is the battery system, followed then by also high voltage system and the e-axle. All these measures lead us to the forecast that we will go somewhere into the direction of below 70 euros, even on system level, which makes the battery electric vehicle much more competitive in the place than we even thought last year. OEMs really have to struggle right now to reorganize their core capabilities, their capabilities to design and to produce. And as they have limited resources there, they have to think about what is the portfolio I want to follow. Most of the development activities will go now into the battery electric vehicles for the next years. And if the fuel cell wants to have their place, we think that it really has to play the card with the range. The overall recommendation here is to reduce the variance and to revise its core capabilities. The battery electric vehicles will become much more cost competitive than they are today.
The vision probably is that in a couple of years' time, and earlier than probably we all expected, electric vehicles and battery electric vehicles will be commodity. Yeah? And for that we need charging infrastructure, for example, and other services being prepared to cope with these big volumes of electric vehicles being on our streets.
At NVM Mobility, we are part of the NVM group, and we are responsible for the alternative transportation within the group. We have not only e-mobility unit, but either we have a PNG, compressed natural gas business unit. My responsibility is the e-mobility. So at the moment in Hungary, there are like 32,000 green license plate vehicles, which is the plug-in hybrid and BEVs. And we have more than 28,000 registered customers in our system, which means practically like almost 100% of the EV customers are downloaded and registered to our application.
Enelion is a company that was born and raised due to the increase in the e-mobility industry. We were founded in 2015 as a manufacturer of AC chargers. And since 2020, our portfolio has been also broadened by IT system Enelink to manage the chargers and to build the customers. As Enelion, we possess a coherent ecosystem for e-mobility, chargers, software, and payments.
I simply feel that CEE, compared maybe to the western part of the region, is a bit lacking behind the transformation to electric vehicles on the street. Yeah, so it looks like a couple of people still like to drive big diesel SUVs.
Basically, what we see in Hungary, the prospect is pretty similar what is in Western Europe in terms of EVs. Basically, we are lagging a bit behind, like 2, 3, 4 years of the big EV markets of Western and mostly like Northern Europe, right? Like Norway, Sweden, maybe the Netherlands. But pretty much we are following the way what they did a few years ago. And I believe in a few years' time, we will be like 2, 3 years' time, we will be at the same point where the developed Western and Northern European EV market.
I think that the adoption of EVs is based, I think, on the three elements. So first of all is just the price of the battery electric vehicles itself. Then there is the level of subsidy, and at the end there is the GDP per capita in the country. So as we could see on the earlier presentations by PwC, the cost of battery electric cars are dropping. Yes. So it's one, the beneficial element. I think that combining these three elements means that we are at the beginning of the wave that has already been in the Western countries, but now is going to the Central Eastern Europe.
if you want to have it in light vehicles, then you really have to have the range in it, as we mentioned. So that has to be over 600 kilometers of range in a passenger car. Yeah. But basically, right now we see that the battery electric vehicles are coming that much already in this range, and because you have limited space. And right now the energy density of the battery system is improving due to the point that we do something like huge upscaling of the cells. Yeah, they are getting bigger, and so the energy density is raising. So we think that within the passenger cars, that will be a hard way still to have the fuel cell in there.
So conclusion, both politically, technically, and practically, from a cost perspective, at least for the next, let's say, decade, it looks like the battery electric vehicle will make its way in the light vehicle segment.
I think the decision is already made, to be honest.
Yes.
I mean, not even so. If you ask the big German OEMs, at this point, I mean, there is one of them which follows the road down with a fuel cell still, but only for SUVs, and all the others are taking their stacks or putting their coins on the battery electric vehicle now with being developed.
The smarter is your system, and the more IT is involved in maintaining your system, then you are more and more vulnerable, right, for external hackers and hacking your system. And then if it happens, then your whole services can be down immediately and very easily and remotely. You don't even know who is doing that. So we are, time to time, with ethical hackers, we are testing our system. And even within the MVM group, there is a very strict rules for IT security. And regarding the OEMs, I believe they have to incorporate this as well. So as more and more EVs will come out as their production, certainly it's not only a vehicle anymore, but it's like a computer on like 4 wheels, right? So they have to incorporate this kind of activity, and they have to take care of IT security on a very, very high level.
I would answer these questions having two issues in mind, and both regarding regulations. Yes, because in Germany there is the Eichrecht, the sets of regulations how e-mobility industry should be developed to meet all the criteria and to keep the customers safe in terms of also of IT safety. So we analyze these sets of regulations because we'll adapt them. We want to adapt them in our products, both in terms of chargers and system. IT system as well. So we see on the German market as the benchmark what will happen in Europe, what will be the higher standards of safety and IT safety in Europe. And the other standard and the other regulation is ISO 15118, what allows to move on the higher level of communication between the charger and the system. We need to refer to regulations, and I think it's a good way because comparing with other industry like with banking and with the regulations on the banking sector, we as a whole in mobility industry, we have to do our best to keep the customers safe.